In 2012, the Odd Future hype was through the roof. The year before that, de facto leader Tyler the Creator had broken through with the shocking video for his song Yonkers to become hip-hop's resident rowdy teen. His cohort, Earl Sweatshirt, won over a cult fanbase with lyrically dense, MF Doom-inspired horrorcore bars. And his mystique only amplified when he went radio silent when his parents sent him to military school in Samoa after hearing his lyrics. HADJI Beats, no relation here, and Left Brain had a critical darling with their duo Mellow Hype, whose album Black and White got an 8.0 from Pitchfork. Damo Genesis, maybe the most traditional spitter of the group, had 2 acclaimed mixtapes, Rolling Papers and Under the Influence, under his belt, and was about to lock in with legendary producer The Alchemist for a collab album called No Idols. Frank Ocean reset the meta for R&B music with his mixtape Nostalgia Ultra in 2011, and this is just scratching the surface of the group. Their 2012 collab tape, The OF Tape Volume 2, was hotly anticipated by their fans. Or at least it was hotly anticipated by me, who was in high school, refreshing blogs and Tyler the Creator's form spring to get a release date. It finally came in March 2012, and there were some immediate standouts. Mike G's Forest Green might be the best song in his whole discography. Analog 2 is like the perfect representation of Tyler kind of moving out of the edgy stuff and into his love of bikes and nature, as we would see on his album Wolf the next year. This tape was the first time I heard The Internet with their standout track. Frank Ocean's White is a nice little ballad that ties in with an interlude on his debut album Channel Orange that came out a little bit later that year. But the one song that people think of when they think of this tape, and maybe that they think of when they think of Odd Future overall, is Oldie. Clocking in at over 10 minutes, with almost every member of Odd Future getting a verse, Oldie is arguably the most iconic track of the Odd Future era. Everybody showed out, from Tyler having 2 verses as the group leader, to Damo, Mike G, HADJI Beats, and Left Brain all bringing their best. Frank hints at his sexuality in what sounded like a joking manner in the moment, but he really came out a couple months later. Even Jasper, who in his first line lets you know that he is not a rapper, holds his own, kind of. They saved the big reveal for the end, with Earl returning from Samoa with a slightly deeper voice to bar up even harder than he did on his debut tape. For as much as the song itself is a classic, it's an incomplete experience without the video. The group was in New York to shoot a cover for XXL. But thanks to the photographer being late and some behind-the-scenes drama and squabbling, the shoot was delayed. So instead, they just shot an impromptu video using props that they found around the photo studio. It was such a legendary moment that The Ringer did an oral history of it in 2022 for its 10-year anniversary. But beyond what Oldie and its video meant to Odd Future, it also serves as the perfect visual representation of what people love about the Posse Cut, their favorite rappers hanging out, barring up, joking around, and having fun. Oldie was far from the first Posse Cut, but it remains maybe the most visceral for my generation, because we actually got to see it. There were so many other classic Posse Cuts from this era. We can look at A$AP Rocky's One Train, or A$AP Ferg's Work remix just 1 year later in 2013. But today, a decade later, the Posse Cut feels like kind of a dying art. Examples of a show-stopping one, or even just a good one, are becoming few and far between. And today, I'm gonna try to figure out why. I have a few ideas, and I might even be able to give fans of the Posse Cut some hope. But first, if you like videos on music like this one, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. I post a video every week, and if you want to see them early, go to my Instagram, HADJI Gaviota, throw me a follow, and join my broadcast channel. I post all my videos in that channel 1 day early for free. Also, my group Elmjack has a song called Get It How You Live with Dende coming out on June 4th. I'm really excited for you guys to hear this one and see the video. I'm going to put the pre-save link to the song in the description. Every pre-save really helps, so I'd really appreciate it. And I, HADJI Gaviota, am going on tour this summer with some great artists, Damage, Rob Apollo, and Snow Xavier. If you live in the West Coast, the Midwest, or New York, there is a pretty good chance I am coming to your city. So check out those dates. I'm going to leave the link to tickets in the description. They are on sale now. All right, let's get back to the video. I was going to start off this video by saying that one of the earliest examples of a rap song, the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, was a Posse Cut. But then I learned the cold hard truth. Many sources consider the minimum number of rappers on a song to make it a Posse Cut to be 4. And Rapper's Delight, while it has way more than 3 verses, only has 3 distinct rappers. However, if you ask Rock the Bells, a Posse Cut only needs 3 rappers. But they need to not belong to the same group. Now this throws the whole intro of this video into question. Is Odd Future a group or a crew? Is there a difference between those two things? All of this goes to show how so many of the classifications and definitions that we have for things in music and hip hop are unwritten and open to interpretation. So for the sake of this video, as we go through the history of the Posse Cut, we might need to warp its definition to fit anything that fits in the spirit of what we might consider a Posse Cut. And even if you don't want to count the Sugar Hill Gang, there are plenty of very early examples of posse cuts in hip-hop. Rock the Bells credits the first true posse cut to be Here Comes That Beat by Pumpkin and the Profile All-Stars, featuring Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Scratch On Galaxy, the Fresh 3 MCs, the Disco 4, and Fly Tyrone. A year later, there was Crush Groovin' with the Fat Boys, Run DMC, Sheila E., and Curtis Blow. Jump ahead a few years to the rise of the West Coast, and there are tracks like the Grand Finale with the DOC, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, and MC Ren. Well, 3 out of 4 of these guys were in NWA, and the DOC worked on NWA's music. Since he wasn't in the group, I guess it technically fits the definition of a posse cut. There are too many posse cuts to name in hip-hop as a whole, so I'm not gonna sit here and name every one. Let me know your favorite posse cut in the comments. I'm sure I didn't mention your favorite one. It's not really the goal of the video, but I would love to hear your favorite and why it's your favorite. So let me know in the comments. Go ahead. Be angry that I forgot to mention Bitch Please 2 from the Marshall Mathers LP. But let me flash forward a bit to the real start of my independent music listening time, starting in the mid-2000s. I'm realizing now that a lot of the ones in my era used to be remixes of songs that already proved themselves to be hits. Busta Rhymes' Touch It remix featured Mary J. Blige, Rod Digga, Missy Elliott, Lloyd Banks, DMX, and Papoose. And whenever the B section of the beat would come on during their verse, they would go from being like relatively chill to just turning all the way up. It's very memorable. Some posse cuts were memorable for being long as hell, like the Game's One Blood remix. Let me try to name everyone on this song in one breath. Bun B, Clips, Dog Pound, E40, Chameleonaire, Fabulous, Fat Joe, Jadakiss, Ja Rule, Jim Jones, Joel Santana, Lil Wayne, Nas, Nori, Rick Ross, Slim Thug, Snoop Dogg, Styles P, T.I., Twista, WC, and Young Dro. My personal favorite posse cut growing up, rest in peace, was Unk's remix of Walk It Out with Jim Jones and Outkast. That's honestly where like the Andre 3000 is the GOAT seeds were first planted in my brain. Fat Joe and Lil Wayne's Make It Rain remix also went platinum on my iPod, with Birdman, Rick Ross, T.I., and R. Kelly. This was also the start of the DJ Khaled era, before he leaned into being like the Vine famous social media star still in a meeting guy. He was a Miami DJ who used to put together posse cuts like We Taking Over or Out Here Grindin', before he took things truly nuclear with All I Do Is Win. He still does this formula, but it just doesn't quite hit the same in 2025. And you know what? We're gonna put a bookmark in the DJ Khaled conversation and come back to this in a little bit. Other DJs like DJ Drama and DJ Felly Fell did the same thing during this era. Some posse cuts dipped their toes into R&B, like Chris Brown's remix of Deuces, featuring Drake, Andre 3000, Rick Ross, T.I., Kanye West, and Fabulous. Yo, is there a single posse cut from the 2000s that did not have both Rick Ross and T.I. on it? Did they like run around together as like the posse cut duo? They were like T.I., Mon, and Pumbaa. And if you consider them to be a crew and not a group, then all of those big Young Money hits would also count, like Bedrock and Every Girl in the World. Oh my god, do not look up those lyrics in 2025. Lil Wayne got even more creative with the format of the posse cut with his album The Carter 4, turning it into something of an episodic series by having the intro, the interlude, and the outro of the album all have the same beat. He does the intro, Tech N9ne gets on the beat during the interlude, and then the outro has Nas and Shine and Bun B and Busta Rhymes. Kanye West got really into the posse cut around the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy era and the Good Friday singles that came before that. Which, by the way, if someone on Kanye West's team is watching this while he's busy doing like the shenanigans that he's doing, you need to go on his laptop, take all those Good Friday singles, and upload them to all streaming services, please. Because honestly, he's so busy doing bullshit that he's probably not even gonna notice. Christian Dior Denim Flow, Good Friday, the song itself, and then Monster, which ended up on the actual album too. All classic examples. Goblins, ghouls. Around the same time, we got other Kanye-helmed posse cuts like Mercy and Click. Look back at these songs, and then the crop of similar ones that we would get as the 2010s started to progress. A$AP Rocky, 2 Chainz, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake's Problems. Wow, these guys should work together more. French Montana, Rick Ross, Drake, and Lil Wayne's Pop That. A$AP Ferg's Work remix with Trinidad James, French Montana, A$AP Rocky, and Schoolboy Q. And you'll recognize that posse cuts back then could be bona fide hits. They also could be Super Smash Bros. Stages for blog era rappers to try to lyrically bar up on each other, like Oldie was, or Rocky's One Train posse cut. A more slept on one from this era for me was Just Begun, with Talib Kweli, Mos Def, J. Cole, and Jay Electronica. It's not that posse cuts came to a complete stop once the 2010s progressed. There were some from TDE's Black Hippie crew, with maybe the last notable one being Vice City from J-Rock's album in 2015. Danny Brown's track Really Dough in 2016 brought together Kendrick Lamar, Ab-Soul, and Earl Sweatshirt, groups as wide-ranging in style as the Migos and Brockhampton proved that fans loved the idea of having a bunch of different vocalists on the same song. Even if those maybe don't qualify as posse cuts because they came from groups, they do fit in the spirit, and as you try to understand what people liked about posse cuts, their discography is a great way of explaining it. But in the late 2010s onward, it feels like there are less and less of these moments in hip-hop. Why is that? In order to understand where the posse cut went, we have to understand where the song went overall. From 2015 to 2017, the average length of a top 10 song on Billboard fluctuated from 3 minutes and 32 seconds to 3 minutes and 49 seconds. In 2018, it was 3 minutes and 37 seconds. Then in 2019, it fell off a cliff to 3 minutes and 7 seconds. 30 seconds is a big drop off. That might be a verse. It was even more dramatic in hip hop, where the average length of a top 10 hit dropped from 3 minutes and 39 seconds in 2018 to 2 minutes and 48 seconds in 2019. At the time when Billboard reported on it, they attributed it to the rise in power of streaming services, arguing that shorter songs were the result of algorithms on DSPs, like Spotify and Apple Music, boosting them due to their high listener retention, or maybe the fact that fans would run the song back to the beginning more often because it was shorter. In 2019, they had no idea how much worse this was about to get in the 2020s with the boom of TikTok and snippet culture, and artists who started to optimize their songs for that kind of success. Pink Panther has looked at that article and said, "Hold my tea and crumpets, I'm about to go in." Posse cuts are by nature long as hell. If there are 4 rappers on a song, there are at least 4 verses. If it's a song like Oldie, then you're looking at a runtime over 10 minutes, or what could have been 4 hit rap songs in 2019. 3 verses was the norm for hip hop songs in the 90s and the 2000s. But by the 2010s, that was already starting to go out of style in favor of the shorter 2-verse song. The excellent blog Fake Shore Drive ran an article in 2012 called "What the Hell Happened to the Third Verse?" But at this point, somebody can make a blog post, or maybe more likely, a YouTube video, or even a TikTok or an Instagram reel called "What the Hell Happened to the Second Verse?" We can see this phenomenon on some of the biggest hit rap songs of the last year or so. Bossman D-Lo's "Get In With Me" clocks in at an even 2 minutes flat, and it goes short intro, hook, verse, hook, it's over. Playboi Carti's "Evil Jordan," even though it's 3 minutes long, is just like a super long, dramatic Disney intro, and then just 1 verse straight, and then it doesn't even have a hook. Really, the best examples of hit rap songs in the last year or so that have bucked the trend of being really short and have multiple verses all came from the Drake-Kendrick beef. From both sides. Not Like Us, Family Matters, Euphoria, Like That. They're all substantially longer and have more than 2 verses. But these guys just hate each other so much that they want to talk about it on a track for as long as they can. There's a rumor that Kendrick Lamar had a version of Euphoria that was 19 minutes long. So I guess if you want longer songs in hip hop, you need to make all these guys despise each other. I do feel the need to add that not all posse cuts are made equal. There was a lot of Stockholm syndroming yourself into liking a certain rapper's verse on a song because you liked the guy before him and then you liked the guy after him. I sat through Yellow Wolf's verse on One Train so many times in that era, just because I wanted to hear Danny Brown, I wanted to hear Action Bronson, I wanted to hear Big Crit. It's like if I gotta sit through the "mention me with the other white rappers in many case any other rapper," then like that's just what I was gonna do back then. I was still on an iPod Classic, I couldn't just scroll ahead, I remember back then people used to make edits where they would like take features off of songs. I never went to that level, but I would understand. And maybe the Stockholm syndroming of like listening to verses is not such a bad thing because sometimes they grow on you. I don't think I would have ever told you that my favorite verse on the Work remix in 2013 was French Montana. But now if that song comes on, the loudest I am going to be during that song is "That ain't Kanye, that's Montana, loose cannon." Of course, there are exceptions today to the short song rule in hip hop. Once we leave the realm of like hit songs, especially when we're in the underground pockets of hip hop where rappers are really still prioritizing their lyrics and their bars. Now that we mention bars, that might be another reason. One of the biggest problems with posse cuts in 2025 can be summed up by looking at what's happened to the XXL Freshman series. Every year, XXL puts together 10 to 12 of the hottest rappers, or whoever the label pays them to do, on their magazine cover. Around that, they have artists do these little acapella freestyles. The "I like to get my sucked" while I'm getting high, and then pair them into groups of 3 and 4 for cyphers, where they all rap on the same beat like they're doing a group project. This was clearly done to emulate the joy of the posse cut. It's something that's really existed in hip-hop for as long as hip-hop has existed. Of course, sometimes you get a wild card in your group project. You get the kid who sits alone at the lunch table, is gonna get up there and do his own thing. But for the most part, this was a smooth process until the mid to late 2010s, when that SoundCloud-driven class of 2016 first arrived. The idea needed to be refreshed a little bit. The 2016 XXL Freshman Cypher, featuring Denzel Curry, 21 Savage, Lil Yachty, Lil Uzi Vert, and Kodak Black, is an undeniable classic. It's probably the most popular one. It has over 230 million views on YouTube to this day. That comment section today is more active than a lot of comment sections on a video that came out yesterday. The way that they're all smiling and laughing and having fun and ad-libbing for each other makes it feel like a bunch of guys who genuinely enjoy hanging out with each other and like each other's company. And that way, it's a lot like the oldie video. But what's really indicative of where the world was going with the Posse Cut is the first line that Kodak Black says in his verse. Who the hell picked this sorry-ass beat? Around the same time, Lil Uzi Vert went on Hot 97 and told Ebro to his face that he did not want to rap on a DJ Premier beat. Rappers in the 90s and 2000s might have literally killed someone to get a DJ Premier beat. But times were changing. The mainstream acts in hip-hop started to incorporate melody and sing-songy catchiness, sometimes at the expense of lyricism. Now, it's not like melody wasn't in hip-hop before that. Like, I grew up listening to Nelly, but this was different. And I'm not saying these guys have no bars whatsoever, like ever, because sometimes they do honestly say some pretty interesting stuff. And I'm also not trying to say that it's impossible to be melodic and lyrical at the same time, because it definitely isn't. But that's not always the goal that these guys are trying to accomplish. And so while collabs between this class of artists can be a lot of fun, people have been begging for the rumored Lil Uzi and Playboi Carti collab album for almost a decade at this point. Collabs between all of these artists at once might not make as much sense. Part of what made a 6-minute rap song with 8 verses so fun to listen to was that all the artists would come with interesting things to say and different ways to attack the beats. If the goal of these newer artists is to set the vibe more than it is to say something interesting, then the power of the Posse Cut is diminished on that bigger mainstream level. It can be hard to pick one beat that works for 4+ artists now. And even if you find one, if the song is more about the vibe than what it is that the artists are saying, then having too many verses might lead to a vibe that overstays its welcome a little bit. But honestly, this is still an issue that really applies mostly to a certain subset of hip-hop. There are plenty of artists who are popular today who would kill a Posse Cut. There's a deeper reason to me why they aren't being prioritized, and I honestly don't think it's going to surprise you. Like most issues in music and the world in general, if you want to understand why they're happening, you just gotta follow the money. Songs are paid per stream, and the song just has to be 35 seconds long on Spotify. So if you get $1 for 200 streams on Spotify, you're getting that $1, whether your song is 1 minute long or 10 minutes long. If your song was 10 minutes long, people listen to 2,000 minutes of your music. If your song is 1 minute long, people listen to 200 minutes, and yet you get paid the exact same. It's very different from platforms like YouTube, where it's all about like retention rate and stuff like that. They don't care on Spotify. In the past, when people were actually buying music, the excitement of seeing a track with 4 of their favorite artists all written on it as featured might have made them pull the trigger to buy that CD. Or honestly, during the digital download era, even to buy the song on iTunes. And those iTunes snippets were only like 30 seconds long, so you were at most hearing like bits of 2 of the rappers. If you wanted to hear what all 4 of them did, you had to buy it. But streaming changes the dynamics of that whole decision. On a basic level, this also explains why songs are just shorter in general. Artists are barely scraping by, so why take money out of their pockets by making 1 longer song when they could just make 2 shorter songs instead and get paid twice as much? Posse cuts are by definition going to be pretty long, meaning they are unfavorable in the streaming environment. Whether that's good for music or not. I mean, honestly, it's not a hypothetical. I think that's bad for music, but it's a separate story. Now, with this context, put yourself in the shoes of a moderately successful rapper. You have 3 other popular rappers who are hitting you up like, yeah man, I'll do a verse for your album. You've been working on an album, you've got a bunch of songs that are like 1 verse, 1 hook that you're really hyped on, but they're not finished songs yet. It's nice and easy to send 3 of those songs to 3 of those rappers and get 3 features on 3 different songs, and now you have 3 completed songs. And they all have a feature, a different one, that will bring in a different listenership. In an era dominated by playlists, where people click on an album and then just save 1 song that they like and never come back to the full project, this makes a lot of sense as a business decision. If you were like, no, let's do a Posse Cut, then you have 1 finished song with 4 rappers on it, and 3 unfinished songs. So if you're lazy, or to give the artist a little more credit, you just don't know how to finish those ideas, which happens sometimes, spreading out the features is gonna be the move. This gets amplified times 10 for the label, who has all the same financial concerns, but also probably doesn't give a about the art or the legacy of the Posse Cut or anything like that. They're just looking at the bottom line, and the bottom line is saying you should spread those features out. Now, this isn't to say that the Posse Cut is always a bad business decision. In fact, the aforementioned DJ Khaled made a very nice living for himself out of creating Posse Cuts. He took a scientific approach to combining popular artists on beats that would work for all of them to create bona fide smash hits. By my count, he has 24 platinum singles, one of which, I'm the One, is Diamond, and Wild Thoughts is almost Diamond. Not every DJ Khaled song is a full-on Posse Cut. Wild Thoughts, for example, only has Rihanna and Bryson Tiller on it, but when you got Rihanna, that might be all you need. And Drake will give him solo tracks all the time that he doesn't feel like putting on his album or whatever, and sometimes those become hits. But maybe DJ Khaled is the perfect microcosm to understand how over-corporatization can also suck the fun out of the Posse Cut. If you really think about it, most good Posse Cuts are driven by at least one of 2 distinct things: friendship and competition. Songs like Oldie are in the former category, as they allow the listener to feel like one of the boys in Odd Future, and getting to watch all of them have fun only adds to that feeling. It feels like sitting around with your friends and rapping on a YouTube beat that you pulled up, except all your friends are really good. The power of friendship in that situation will drive that song to being awesome. On the other hand, look at a Posse Cut like Danny Brown's Really Dough. That's the blade sharpening the blade. Who's getting the best verse? These guys might be cool with each other, but they're probably not friends in the way that Odd Future are friends with each other or were friends with each other. Instead, they're driven by the spirit of wanting to be the best at their craft, which absolutely can lead to an incredible product. DJ Khaled's earliest songs fit in the latter category, but on a mainstream scale. Artists were battling to get one of those slots. I've always been fascinated by Ludacris's line on All I Do Is Win, where he's like, last time I was on the Khaled remix, now I'm on the original version. It's a brag about how all he does is win, because that's a win. He got upgraded to being one of the mainline features on a Khaled song. It was a spot that you would compete for. It was like announcing he upgraded his Mitsubishi to a Maybach. Show-stealing appearances like Drake on I'm On One could change a career overnight, and artists were aware of those stakes. After a certain point though, it started to feel a little bit formulaic. Fans have recently started to vocalize how tired they are of seeing the exact same features on every A-list rap album. Oh, you got some combination of 21 Savage, Future, and Travis Scott on there? And maybe a hidden Tizo touchdown feature? How surprising. DJ Khaled is like the epitome of the predictable collaboration, and the demand for that has died down, with his album sales plateauing over the last few releases. And when you listen to some of those songs on those albums, I mean, sure, they're well made, but they don't have that spark, you know? And competition and business don't always mix well together, and that might be another reason why the Posse Cut is becoming rarer. Nobody wants to have the worst verse on a Posse Cut. That happened to A$AP Ant on the song Bath Salt with Flatbush Zombies and A$AP Rocky, and people have not stopped talking about that for 14 years. And what's crazy is A$AP Ant is actually not a bad rapper, but that left such an imprint on people that that's just what they think about. People have been making fun of Lil Mosey for his XXL cypher since it came out. It's hard to live these moments down. And some artists might make good music, but just might not be built for the Posse Cut format. In that sense, participating in the wrong Posse Cut could be bad for business. Through all these complications, people still yearn for the Posse Cut. And you know what? I think things might be starting to turn around. Artists, labels, and brands alike all recognize the power of the Posse Cut. And if it's not going to happen organically with artists, due to streaming or money or music industry politics, then they're going to try to make it happen somehow. While XXL may have dropped the ball a little bit with their freshman class thing, in terms of relevancy and how many people care about the ciphers at this point, others have stepped in to try to fill those shoes. The media company Underground Sound did their own top 10 cypher a few months ago, which, as you might guess, was built around artists who are part of the underground, or that kind of post-SoundCloud scene. Artists I've covered like YT were in it. Oi! And some other artists that I'm a fan of, like Pretty Fun and Benji Blue Bills. Instead of waiting for XXL to give these guys a slot 5 years after they probably deserved one, they just made their own, and fans seem to really like it. Red Bull, yes, the energy drink company, has a very long history of investing in music. They started a new YouTube channel in 2023 called Red Bull 1520, where the focus is on hip-hop content. One series they do is the Red Bull Spiral Freestyle, putting together groups of 3 artists to all rap together. They have the ability to be more cohesive than the XXL freshman ciphers, because they aren't limited to making groups out of the 10 to 12 artists that labels paid them to put on the cover. So instead, Red Bull can put together groups like Cash Cobain, Lonnie Love, and Chow Lee to celebrate New York's sexy drill scene. Or they can do Earth Gang, Cause and Loot from Dreamville, or a Griselda one to do like label specific ciphers. Or they can do Saba, Mick Jenkins, and IDK for that like lyrical fan base. Or Pusha T, Kai Infinite, and Young Chris representing Virginia. Not all of these videos have done crazy numbers, but hey, building a YouTube page takes time. Their most recent one, with Big Sean, Absol, and Joey Badass, is probably their most popular. And it's added logs to the flame of the East Coast West Coast beef between Joey Badass and Ray Vaughn and some of the other TDE guys like Daylight. Some people have asked me to cover that, by the way, and with them dropping like 4 songs every day, every time I think I have an angle, there's like a whole new story. So I might wait a little bit, but if you do want to see a video talking about that beef, or that rap battle, I guess I would call it, let me know in the comments. Besides inspiring the beef, the cypher has been all over social media, whether people are bigging up certain bars or making fun of the part where Big Sean raps kind of fast. I think it serves as proof that people do care still about the Posse Cut, even if the format shifts to this like mandated created cypher type of thing. Well, these Posse Cuts might not stream as well as other songs, and until the music industry comes up with a better business model that's going to be the decision maker, they do pretty well on social media when they're framed right. As depressing as it sounds, that will keep leading the powers that be to organize these kinds of things. While these corporately organized ciphers might get some clicks and views, nothing is going to beat the power of friendship. A new group called What More is proving that that kind of thing is still around. I talked about them a bit in my Brockhampton video, but for those who didn't see it, What More is a New York-based quintet of artists made up of vocalist Cisco Swank, Yoshi T, Jackson August, and Sebastiano, and the producer Elijah Judah. If you're running to Spotify to check out What More, you might be a bit confused because they have like no songs out. That's not entirely true because all of these guys have their own solo careers. Cisco has some really great projects and has toured with artists like No Name as a keyboardist. Yoshi T has some really cool songs. Jackson has some dope stuff that's like more in the indie vibe. Well, Seb doesn't have a ton of music out, but all the stuff he does have is really good. But all the group stuff they've done so far has been on social media. They post videos of their flips, where basically they take a popular song, Elijah samples it into a beat, and they each put 4 bars on it. It's like the compressed, brain rot friendly version of the Posse Cut. In the time that it takes you to listen to Oldie, you could have watched 20 of these flips. The quick blow up on social media, with people arguing about who has the best verse each time, demonstrates how the Posse Cut can adapt and survive for the social media world. I'd be lying if I said watching a 20-second video is as satisfying as Oldie, but few things are. And it serves as a great introduction to the group. And I do think this is the kind of thing we will see more of in the future. As much as I want to see a bunch of really talented rappers throw 16s back and forth at each other, things do need to adapt. That still has a life on YouTube. I've heard them play some of their actual like to be released music at a live show and it was great. Soon they will be releasing long form songs. I'm not gonna lie, the phrase long form songs might be one of the most disgusting things I've ever said, but it's 2025, baby. What do you guys think? You guys miss the Posse Cut? Do you like shorter songs? Or was it really annoying to have to manually skip through a real stinker of a verse? What do you want me to cover next? Let me know in the comments. Peace.